Okay, good morning, everybody. I'd like to call the monthly meeting of the Dutchess County IDA to order. Jasmine, will you please take the attendance?
Jim Dean,
Here.
Mark Doyle.
Yeah.
Kathy Bauer.
Here.
Amy Bondieri.
Here.
Jan Pacone.
Here.
John Sagliano.
Here.
Al Trujano.
Okay, first thing I would like to do, well, let's cover conflict of interest. If anybody has a conflict of interest with any of the matters on the agenda before us, I would appreciate it if you'd let us know now. Okay, I don't hear any, but if for some reason you discover that you have a conflict during the meeting, please let us know and we'll recuse you. Sarah, proof of meeting notice posted? Any bills and communications?
None.
Okay. Approval of minutes. Did everybody have a chance to read the minutes from the prior meeting? Somebody willing to make a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, thank you, Amy. Mark, would you do a second?
Hi, how are you?
Jasmine, will you please just take a vote on the minutes?
John Sagliano.
Approved.
Jan Pacone.
Approved.
Amy Bondieri.
Approved.
Kathy Bauer.
Approved.
Mark Doyle.
Approved.
Jim Dean.
Approved. Okay, before we go any further, what I would like to do is just to take a moment. As you all know, our esteemed board member, Don Sagliano, has tendered his resignation because he's moving from the area. And Don, I just want to let you know that we greatly appreciate your service over the years and your diligence and your attention to detail and your financial expertise, which some of us do not have as great an expertise as you. And so having you on the board has provided us with a really great oversight of some of the more technical matters, and not just finance, but everything. And as a way of the board members thanking you, and I want to be clear, it is the board members, not the organization. We have had a silver platter purchased, and it has an inscription, and I'd like to read it to you. It says, "Presented to Donald R. Sagliano in appreciation for his dedicated commitment to the Dutchess County Industrial Development Agency and the Dutchess County Local Development Corporation for the years 2018 to 2024. So once again, I just want to thank you for your work on behalf of the community you represent in this body. And so thank you and best wishes in your retirement.
Thank you very much. And it's been a pleasure to serve, on the two committees. We're in the IDA meeting as the appointed legislative representative for the bulk of the time until my, legislative term expired at December 31st. I always took great pride and personal consideration into ensuring that this body was doing things for the people of Dutchess, which is important for the people of Dutchess. And it's been a pleasure, and I'm very thankful and grateful for the acquaintances and friends that I've met from this endeavor.
Great.
So thank you, everyone.
Yes,
I appreciate it.
Thank you again. Okay, now let's move on to the report of the treasurer.
Yes. In the package, you're gonna see the P&L for,
Wait till,
this is just the December, I just wanted to note, December 2023, it's to budget because usually we're just doing the audited financial statements and you don't see it compared to budget. So it's in the package for your view. Shannon will be going through the audited financial statements.
Just to introduce Shannon Manganese. Manisi, thank you.
Okay.
From RBT is here with us today to discuss this.
Okay, I'm just gonna go quickly through the February, just so that you have an idea of where we're at. For February, looking at the balance sheet, there's 3.5 million in cash. 1 million of that is gonna be dispersed in pilot payments this week. So just to let you know why it's so high. Otherwise, we'll have, there's large receivables. Those will be discussed when we go through the audited financial statements. Looking at the P&L for the 2 months, The revenue is 35,000 to a budget of 925,000, so right now we're unfavorable by 190,000, but of course, we're looking at a budget, an annual budget. The expenses,
James,
Yeah.
there's a balance sheet from February 2024. The profit and loss says December 2023 in the packet, unless I'm missing.
no,
something.
there's one more.
Yeah, this is our,
The December is just, the only reason I put it in there was,
Because I looked and you had 2023 up there. That's what was confusing.
okay, the expenses, for the 2 months, 219,000 to a budget of 749,000, so right now we're favorable by 530,000. We have a loss of 184,000 to a budget of 176,000 so far. So right now, we're looking at unfavorable by 360,000, but of course, it's compared to an annual budget.
Just if you wouldn't mind, I just want to interrupt for a quick second to note that Al Torgiani has joined us in the meeting. Thank you. Okay, any questions? Okay, what's next?
the audit. I don't know, Kathy, you want to?
Sure.
Okay.
Kathy, our audit committee chairperson, will now discuss our finance and audit.
Well, actually, I am going to turn it over to Shannon from RBT CPAs, who was gracious enough to join us this morning.
Sure, so the financial statement should be in your packets. So if we turn to page 1 of the financial statement, that is the auditor's report. And the second paragraph is the opinion, so the IDA did receive a clean opinion. That is the whole purpose of the audit. So I'm just gonna give a very brief overview of the financial position of the IDA. So if we turn to page 4, the agency's net position was $3,659,230, and that was up from $2,505,100 from last year, so that's a $1.1 million increase, so overall, a very good year. You can see on the bottom half of page 4 that your revenues had gone up $1.5 million, and I'll get into a little bit more detail on that. And overall, your expenses only went up $22,000. So in the grand scheme of things, you kept your expenses very level and you increased your revenues. So that's why your net position went up so much. Pages 5 and 6 are just Sarah's summary of the minutes that you guys had for 2023 and the projects that occurred. Page 7 is your statement of net position. So Jane referred to the receivables. So there was a situation where there was an agreement with 2 projects where they've agreed to pay over time, but so the IDA had to record the income for the year, but you don't technically get those money until 2024, 2025, and 2026. So you'll see a short-term receivable of $442,000 and then a long-term receivable of $603,000. So that will be money that will come in over those years. And then the only other thing I'd like to mention on that page is that your accounts payable and accrued liabilities are up, and that's just because of Arlington pilot. That's approximately $150,000. But overall, very good financial position. On page 8, as we talked about, your revenue is up significantly, and that's due to Belfield. You had a $302,000 and a $905,000. Arthur May was $240,000 and Can-Am was $217,000. And your interest income was $98,000, and that's just due to the interest rate on the funding. So overall, a very good year. Page 9 is cash flow.
Chairman?
Yeah.
Is there any kind of required footnote disclosure to discuss the arrangement about these accounts receivables at all?
Now, there's not a required disclosure. I mean, we could put one in if you
Okay.
would like it, but
Okay.
there isn't an accounting policy that is required for it.
Great,
You're just required to break it out if it's short-term or long-term.
sure.
And then you just have your rest of your standard notes. So page 13 is just a summary of the conduit debt. And you can see it's just for the two projects there. And then pages 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And 21 are just all the projects and the FTEs, the sales tax exemptions, the property tax exemptions that Jane has to upload to the ADO.
So these are all completed now since last time we were still
Yes,
gathering info?
yep.
Okay. At our audit meeting.
Yes.
No,
We're still waiting for sales tax from two projects.
Run, which technically should be zero.
Yeah, so Fox Run, which is zero.
We haven't gotten notification of
Yeah.
everyone,
Yeah.
and built parcel 6.
Right, and so you'll see they have the 3 asterisks at the sales tax line.
So we've received some of the ST60s from those two projects, but not all of the ST60s. There's just like 2 or 3 standing out from each one.
Doesn't the projects, aren't they required to file the ST 340 by February 29th?
Yes.
Correct.
And so they're late? Is that what the case is?
I don't know, I don't know whether it's just that they didn't send them to the project manager, and we didn't receive. I don't know the values of them. Some of them had an error that they'd have to amend, just the name they had in the wrong spot.
Okay.
That was sent back.
Okay,
They had built parcel 3 instead of built parcel 6.
okay,
Things like that. But for the most part, the ones that we didn't receive are 0 most of the time. The ones I've gotten in have been 0 or a correction.
Yeah, because the confusion is while the sales tax certificate didn't end till 12/31/23, some of those contractors had finished their work in 22, so they didn't think they had to file the ST 340 because they had 0 spending in 23, but we told them, no, even if you have 0 spending, you still have to file that. So that's-
the project applicant is the one that's responsible for filing the ST 340, not a subcontractor.
No, so anyone who is issued, the agent, so anyone who is issued an ST 60, and they could be agents of the contractor.
Right, but it's the project applicant's responsibility to ensure that those agents are filing timely.
Correctly.
Yes.
I only know this from my own outside work experience.
Right.
So if these applicants have not been pressuring their subcontractors to provide them with that data, that's their responsibility.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So, just to follow up on that, are there any that are outstanding that we have any concerns about? Or are they all assumed to be 0? Is that what you're saying?
I cannot say that because with built parcel 6, they have had, it's new and they've had spend, so I can't say for sure.
Okay.
It's Fox Run that was completed in 22, but their ST 60 was 12/31/23. So,
Is there recourse? Is it only informational?
The compliance is through the New York State
Right.
Department of Taxation and Finance. They would be the ones that would implement any sort of compliance or, action about those taxpayers.
But we could make a call.
You could write a sternly written letter.
Sarah has.
Okay.
Just as if we're at a breaking point, so, looking at the balance sheet or the statement of position, we have current fund balance of $3.6 million. Is that, obviously that is taxpayers' money.
Yes.
Yep.
So I think the board needs to, in the next year, formulate a program as to what uses that may be, maybe working with, Ron Hicks, see if there's any sort of programs or implementation of any program to, help out any other businesses, which I know that we've done in the past.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
Yes.
we have to keep in mind that 1.8 of that
Just
is,
gonna point that out.
yes, it's Cricket Valley.
1.8 is Cricket Valley.
So we
Okay.
can't, yeah,
Yeah,
so over half of it is Cricket Valley.
And as we all know, these things can be severely volatile from year to year. So
Yep.
we did have a good year last year.
Yes.
But yes, you're right, and I know one of the things that we have done over the last couple of years is considering some of our current funded programs had not had any increase for years. And just for inflation, the money that we have been giving them as support, it's eroded, right? So we have bumped those up a little bit, but
Yeah.
I think, Sarah, just keeping in mind what Don said is
yeah,
have
and
those discussions, and if there are some things that we can do, you know, that's our charter is to
Yeah.
try and spur economic development.
yeah, and
Actually, excuse me, but the Cricket Valley escrow is not reflected in the unrestricted net position. You have a receivable for the Cricket Valley, and then you have a liability for the Cricket Valley. So the net position of the agency at 12/31 is an unrestricted fund balance of $3,659,000 for the financial statements.
So that is really,
Yeah, it's true. Which a third came from last year.
Right, I mean, you had a very,
Yeah.
the agency. had a
Absolutely.
good year with the project, so it's just something to consider for
Right.
future concerns.
Yeah,
And
and
then
I-
I won't be here to, I won't be here to bring it up again.
yeah, that's fine.
No, but
but I
it's
think,
the right point.
oh, I'm sorry, Mark. Yeah, so that's something that I think we've been contemplating, and maybe, in the fall, when the finance committee meets again, we can, even discuss a potential policy that if the fund balance is of a certain amount, any balance above that is something that can be given to programming or.
All right, anything else?
And just the last page is that there were no internal control findings and no compliance findings.
Thank you, Jane. That's always reflective of your work. And it's nice to have that type of a report where there's not a need for correcting journal entries. I know that you take pride in that, so thank you. I believe we need to approve this, and so Kathy,
I would like to make a motion to approve the 2023 Dutchess County IDA audit.
okay, would a board member be willing to second that?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jamie. Okay, Jasmine, would you please take a roll call vote on that?
Alex Rodriguez,
Yeah, first, threw me way off. Approved.
Don Fabiano,
Approved.
James Bone,
Approve.
Amy Bondieri,
Approved.
Kathy Bauer,
Approved.
Mark Miller,
Approved.
Approved. Jasmine, you're keeping us on our toes. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Don Sagan.
Oh, I thought you already said me.
Nope.
Oh, okay.
She's changing up the order every vote.
Yeah.
Keep us on our toes.
Well, maybe you get to vote twice.
Okay, is there any unfinished business, Sarah?
No.
Okay, so our new business, one of the things we have today is the consideration approval of the authorizing resolution for the Can-Am Hudson Valley Logistics Owner LLC project, which was to amend the existing agreement to provide additional sales tax exemption in the amount of $300,000 for a total benefit of $2,120,000, and an amendment of the recapture provision to include a provision for industrial multi-tenant projects, as we discussed. We have Ryan Kelly here today, and I believe we have John DeCola and Bob Ryan on Zoom, attending by Zoom. So we thank you both for attending as well.
Just Bob. John was not able to make it.
Okay, so Bob is here, and as we saw from the public hearing, there was again a little bit of a description of the project again, but Sarah, would you like to just sort of kick this off?
Sure, so we had the public hearing last week. We received two written comments from the public, which were forwarded to the board. We had no members of the public attend. We had the town supervisor also attend the public hearing, and he spoke in support of the proposal.
So, is there, I mean, I think everybody's had an opportunity to review this, and we discussed it at a prior meeting. Is there any other discussion that any member has, or any question for Ryan, today? Mark?
Yeah, I have a question, and that is what the status of the project is relative to the lease to Stellantis.
Stellantis has executed a lease for 80% of the building, which is roughly 432,000 square feet.
Right.
Okay.
Can I follow that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that entails a requirement for your investment in the improvements that they
Exactly.
had asked for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds like they had some requirements that were above what you had done, just as a sort of a spec project at that point. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yep. And I believe we went through the itemized list at the previous meeting. Happy to do so again if you feel that's required.
Does anybody want to do that? Mark?
I don't know if we're going to have a point to make comments later or just go.
No, it's fine. Be fine now.
So I think our business is to induce investment. And I'm thrilled that, Amazon is here and that, we're having great success with inducing investment. I don't think this is inducement. I think the investment decision has been made.
Okay. That's, anybody else?
That's my comment.
Yes, that's fine. I think, just my comment, I don't think we have the hearing minutes in here. There was a comment I was gonna point out in regards to that, but again, I think it goes back to a comment that I made at a prior meeting, was that the reasons that we induce a project and the need by project owners or applicants for relief from certain costs to make it viable, having them have the confidence that if for some reason the project is bigger than anticipated, that they would have the opportunity to come before us and ask for proportional relief from the added value, I think is important to our future reputation, because the cost and the cost disadvantages that we sometimes face in New York, it applies equally to things that are known as in the beginning as things that develop along the way. So I personally understand the need for someone, and I don't want to affect our ability to attract people by having a project applicant who has more of a spec situation to come to us, with a project that we approve, but be fearful that if things turn out to be better than they expected and they have a tenant or they have an aspect of their project that requires more capital investment than was, originally planned, that they may not be able to get proportional benefits. So while I do appreciate what you're saying, that's just my take on the same thing. Anybody else have any comments? Okay, hearing no other comments, is somebody on the board willing to make a motion to approve this amendment?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Amy. Is anybody willing to second?
I'll second.
Thank you, John Sagnano. Okay, Jasmine, will you please take a vote?
Approved?
Approved.
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 Kathy Bauer,
Approved.
Mark Doyle,
No.
Jim Dean.
Approved. Okay.
Maybe my first note.
That's okay. That's perfectly appreciated and respected. Not a problem at all.
For your time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ryan.
Okay. All right, next we have for discussion and approval of the 2023 Paris reports. Is Shannon going to be needed for any other part of the meeting?
For the LDC.
LDC.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you didn't feel you had to say.
No, that's okay.
Okay. Okay, so, Sarah, is
Yes.
this for you?
Yes.
Okay.
So, in front of you is the proposed report to be submitted to the ABO and the state controller by the end of the month. It's our annual Paris report. You guys are very familiar, but in front of you is the annual report of the IDA.
Oh. Sorry, I'm not
Jumped ahead.
on a different program.
So, basically, the annual report, much of the information aligns with our audit that was just discussed, but if you could, review especially page 3 through 5 to make sure your personal information is, correct.
Is there anybody that has any issues with their training, Sarah?
So everyone is up to date on their training, on
Okay,
ABO
good.
training.
Good. Okay, does anybody see any needed corrections? So many times people have asked me when I started serving and I couldn't.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, there it is.
Well, I'm just looking on page 5. And I'm just comparing it to Jamie's detail listing above. So on the question about has the board member appointed a designee, and it's indicated yes under my name, and I don't believe that I appointed a designee.
Fiduciary, acknowledgement of fiduciary duty.
So has the board member appointed a designee?
Everyone else says no.
Oh, got it.
I acknowledge we all have that.
Is that because of your elected?
That's what I was wondering.
I don't
Board
know.
member
We all-
designee signed
oh.
acknowledgement.
Oh, or also hold an elected, I
Yeah.
no longer hold an elected.
Yeah, but in
position.
2023 you did.
Okay, all right, thank you, sorry.
Anything else? Okay, Sarah, what else?
Yeah, I'll guess.
A lot in there.
Real quick, so on page 7, it indicates that Jane and I are employees of the IDA, but we are not paid by the IDA, so everything is,
LDC.
yes, LDC. Everything is on page 8. It shows that the IDA board members do not receive any benefits, financial benefits from the IDA. And then you have our financial statements that were just reviewed. Page 14 of 75 show the debt that the IDA has issued. It's not IDA debt, it's the bond, it's the bonds. So, and then page 18 through 75 or 70 3 are all the project information that we have indicating the project, the number of employees, the amount of their exemption that they received. That's any questions?
So there's no other debt? This is the
So this is-
totality of our debt, this is only.
So this IDA.
Conduit debt.
It's conduit debt. So we
okay.
have 2 bonds that were issued before the LDC was created. They're old
Yeah.
IDA bonds. And so that's the total debt of the IDA bonds.
Okay. Do we need any type of approval on
You
that?
can approve after all of the.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so I just want to ask if there's any questions about
Sure.
the annual report before we move on.
Okay. Does anybody have anything about the Paris annual report?
Okay, so the next one is your next stapled packet, which is the investment report. And the procurement report is also stapled to it. So, but basically, the investment report is just asking if we have any investments. We don't have any, I think investments. But, and it refers to our audit as well. So all the answers are yes, and then they're linked to the documents to back that up on our website. And then on the next page is the procurement report.
Would you just refer to the page you're talking
Oh,
about?
so the investment report was accidentally stapled to
one
our
of one.
procurement, so it's one of one.
Okay.
And then we have the one of five, which is our procurement report. And we are required to report procurement of contracts and spending that is over $5,000. So what you see is a list of our accounts where we spent more than $5,000 on that. So Camoin Associates is the reasonability studies that we did for projects. We have Capolino, we have the contract with Dutchess County Local Development Corporation and Dutchess Tourism, as well as Hudson Valley Agribusiness. And then Loki Brill, which is our local workforce compliance agency, and then RBT, which is our independent.
Does anybody have any questions about the procurement report? Is there anything in there that you'd like clarification on? Looks to me like there are things that we are aware of, but if that's not the case, please let me know. Okay.
And then the very last report is our audit report. It's not complete because it needs us to upload our approved audit onto our website.
Which we just did.
Which we just did. So after this, after we receive the final audit, we can complete this report. So it's basically linking our audit location on the website.
Okay. Okay, before we adjourn the meeting, I just want to.
Oh, we have to approve it. We have to approve it.
Oh, we have to approve it, okay, all right, so, does anybody have any other questions about the Paris report in its totality? Okay, would somebody be willing to make a motion to approve the 2023 Paris reports?
So moved.
Thank you, Al, second,
I'll second.
thank you, Kathy. Desmond, would you please take the vote?
Al Torjani,
Approved.
Don Sagliano,
Approved.
James McCollum,
Approved.
Amy Bondieri.
Approved.
Kathy Bauer,
Approved.
Mark Roy,
Approved.
Jim Dean.
Approved. So what I wanted to say, and I have said this in the past with Don sometimes at the end of meetings, is that, and this is really directed, Mark, to you, and I mean it in a positive way. You made the comment after the vote where you voted no, and you said, oh my gosh, this is, the first time I think I've ever voted no. And
For a while, anyway.
yes,
Yeah.
and so my point is that is not deserving of an apology in any way. We welcome
Wasn't an apology.
counter opinions and discussions, and that is the purpose of the board. And so I appreciate it. And on these committees, I think that we welcome respectful debate on the topic. So thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's adjourn the meeting.